Good morning, this is Melanie Herman. It's May 13th and this is the newest update on my straw bale garden. I live here on the Sacramento River. Let's see if this will come into focus. It's everything's in the shade, but hopefully you'll get the gist of it anyway. My first message for people is do not use rye bales. Rye, it turns out, is a good medium for growing something called ergot, E-R-G-O-T, and that is a poison, and I believe that is what is stunting the growth of my tomatoes and my beans. See the beans, how the leaves are coming out curled and they are stunting at the base. That is a stump. There are no leaves coming out of there, and there's no further growth coming on. My tomatoes, which when I planted them looked normal, now look stunted. If you can see that. I looked online for an explanation, and they said that if you're using Roundup nearby, it would do this sort of thing. But we haven't used anything like Roundup. You see, this was growing beautifully, and now it is curled up and stunted. Even the growth that was on there is curled up and stunted. So what I did is, and the same thing with the eggplant. It is where it was looking normal, now it's stunted. The melons, however, are doing beautifully. And the peppers, for some reason, are doing quite well. So the beans, the tomatoes, and eggplant are not. I transplanted I had started some squash, and I transplanted it into the rye bales because I thought, well, the melons are doing okay, so the squash will probably do okay, and that may or may not be true. We'll see. In fact, I'm thinking of scrapping the rye bales altogether because I'm not sure I can trust the produce that comes out of them. But I went and bought some rice bales, and I prepared those, and I have transplanted the tomatoes and squash from the rye bales into the straw bales, and my experiment is to see whether or not then their growth returns to normal, because these were growing just fine, all of them, until I transplanted them into rye. And so that is going to delay by a few weeks, my gardening. But in Sacramento, we have a really, really long growing season. We can go all the way through sometimes to November. So I expect that even though it's delayed by a few weeks, it's only mid-May, and I'll end up with quite a bit of produce anyway, even if I have to scrap the rye bales. So lesson is, don't use rye for your bales. From Sacramento, California, good morning.